We all have those days where a coworker is particularly difficult, a family member may be creating a lot of drama and chaos. That day where just every single little thing that can go wrong does go wrong. We spill, we break things, we oversleep, traffic's extra bad. Maybe we've been rejected or going through a breakup. Maybe we made a mistake at work. Maybe we're worried about financial loss. Or maybe we've suffered personal loss. And sometimes we just wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Maybe we had a nightmare. Maybe our stress the previous night carried over. And for just no reason, we are in a bad mood. I think we've all had these kind of days where worry and stress, doom and gloom just weigh on us, and we can't seem to shake it off at the end of the day. There are 4 main reasons that we have a hard time shaking off those negative feelings at the end of a tough day, and I'm going to share those 4 reasons, what we can do to feel better, and most importantly, how we can prevent those bad days in the first place. First, we have to explore what these bad feelings are. What are bad feelings? Are they our slightly elevated heart rate? Our slightly rapid breathing? Those things are not actually that uncomfortable. Are they our dark and gloomy thoughts? Well, they can't be, because we choose to watch horror movies that put us in these dark and gloomy moods on purpose. We can read a book, and the thoughts in our head are the words on the page, and they can be about someone who's going through a very difficult time, and yet we choose to keep reading. The difference is twofold. The reason we suffer is because, one, we are afraid to feel those feelings. We resist them. It makes us angry that we're feeling them. And we long and crave for feelings that we judge as better. The second reason we suffer is because of the significance we put on our mental story that we do not put on the story of a novel we're reading. We are making it a bigger deal than it is. We are misperceiving that it is happening to us, to our core, to the very nature of our being, instead of just something that is happening around us in that constant sea of change. We have created a habit of constantly trying to create a life that we believe we should have, that we believe is the way things should be, that when things work out differently, we long for a reality that is different than it actually is. And so we create the conflict with reality. We can't love life. We can only love a part of life when it is easy and going the way we want. We created a fantasy, and when reality does not line up with it, we suffer. So we must make a practice of loving whatever enters our field of consciousness, whether it is a feeling, a thought, or an experience. If we want to be truly happy all the time, this is the only practice worth doing. And we can love every aspect of this magnificent, dynamic, exciting, incredible universe. We love a high-definition, realistic, unpredictable movie. And you are living in the greatest one ever made. Don't let the special effects and the surround sound and the 360 virtual reality headset fool you. There are no good or bad feelings. There is just the ups and downs of this roller coaster, which we paid good money to experience. Cost of entry, one life. Nothing to fear, nothing to resist, nothing to close our eyes and wish away. It is a custom show, unique and special to each and every one of us. Every challenge is designed to show us how strong we actually are and how much we can actually overcome and how much we can actually make peace with. So welcome them. Accept the challenge of staying peaceful with that difficult coworker, with that difficult family member, with that ketchup you got on your shirt right before the big meeting. Once you can stay calm and peaceful through anything, you will notice those tests and challenges and tribulations disappear, because everything just becomes the delightful seas of change. The second thing we can all do when we're in that bad mood is to ask ourselves, why did these feelings arise in the first place? Where did they come from? We must explore this deeply. We must notice that conditioned ego that craves praise and hates blame. We must examine what is really getting hurt within us. Why do we have these egos that expect others to make us feel good? Why do the words of someone else have power over us, to control us, to manipulate us? And if all words of others manipulate us through either praise or criticism, and they manipulate our feelings and emotions, why do we ask to be manipulated? Why do we want someone to manipulate us into feeling better? This is why human beings fall for con men all the time, because they know their words can control us, make us feel fear, make us feel good, and even make us feel so safe that we'll give them all our money. So we have to really watch this ego. We have to really be careful what it is telling us, because so often it is simply going to get us in trouble. And whenever we are in a dark place, it is usually telling us how someone wronged us, how the universe wronged us, and that we actually deserve unrealistic expectations. And I say unrealistic because if they were realistic, then they would have happened. The world doesn't owe us anything, but we owe it to ourselves to accept life as it is, to love it exactly as it is, to be unafraid, to feel uncomfortable feelings, and to even accept a fearful, insecure ego. And only then, when the words of our thoughts no longer make us suffer, will the words of others no longer control us. There is no thought we cannot bear. There is no feeling we cannot endure. Only when we forget that do we suffer the fear of our own thoughts and emotions. When we are just having a bad day, when we are just feeling emotionally and mentally drained and heavy, if we explore it very closely, instead of drowning it in alcohol or substances, instead of going into a social media endless spiral, if we instead just look as close as we can without distraction, we will always discover that there is no entity within us that is hurt, that this ego cannot be found, that these bruises do not exist. And it is only because we are afraid to look that we have been unable to find this truth. The third thing we have to explore when we are in one of these negative black holes of emotion is to really examine, what are we blaming for these bad feelings? Can anything cause us misery or joy? Or do we create them? There are cultures all over the world where death is not even a sad or tragic event, but rather they are vibrant, festive celebrations of life with music and dance and feasts. These cultures cherish these times of transition in our lives and in our deaths, where we move from one realm to the ancestral realm. And if death can be joyful, then I assure you that traffic, an annoying coworker, a mean boss, a difficult family member can all be joyful. We simply have to acknowledge this fact that we are not experiencing objective reality. We are experiencing a conditioned reality based on our culture, our experiences, our society, our past, and most importantly, our intentions. Most of our conditioning is unconscious and unintentional. We are simply the byproducts of our environment and our past. And if it is unexplored and unexamined, then that past will control us in the present. When we realize we are free to consciously and intentionally create new conditioning, new ways of being and seeing, the kind that cherishes challenges, embraces obstacles, runs towards difficulty instead of away, which is what all our heroes do, then the world becomes ours. We stop blaming others. We stop blaming ourselves. We stop blaming our past, our society, and our culture. And we become conscious creators of our reality. At first, it is too difficult to look inward. When we're so used to blaming others and our circumstances, we feel like turning inward would be blaming ourselves. But if we recognize our conditioned egos that are based on cause and effects far beyond anything in our control, from our parents to our society, to our culture, to random circumstance and events, dating back to the beginning of beginningless time, then we see there's no blame, not for yourself, who's a body you didn't choose or create, into a world you did not choose or create. And you will realize there's no blame for anyone else either, because they are the results of their conditioning. Whether we get cheered up from praise or broken by blame and criticism, we are still falling for this trap that we can be blamed, that other people's words can control us. And when we break through these egos, beyond the stories, which are all fictional, of I'm good or I'm great, and we reach that place of I am, there is nothing left to be blamed. And that is not just your true nature, it is the true nature of everyone. We are all beings of infinite potential. Any word after I am is opinion from a flawed and limited perspective. You simply have the freedom to just be. There is no right way to be. There is no wrong way to be. There is no need for things to be different than they are. When we realize this, we become free to change anything in our environment, to change anything about our circumstances, to change anything about our skills, our physical body, our intelligence. And we can do so blameless and at ease. The fourth thing we can do whenever we are in one of those funks, which we all get in from time to time. We all have cycles in our body. We all have moments of rest and energy. We need both. We need to sleep at night. We all have these natural cycles that dictate our physical experience, just like everything in nature. And so we do not need to fear or stress, worry, judge, or get angry about those downtimes. Ups and downs will always come. Whether we accept that fact or not will determine whether we are at peace through those ups and downs. We can ride a roller coaster. We can get in a cold plunge. We can work out vigorously. And we can even fast for days on end, either at peace or with inner resistance, anger, hatred, and fury. And these practices are incredible tools for helping us learn how to face any kind of situation in our lives that is difficult and to stay present with those difficult feelings, to observe the nature of our complaining mind, and to learn under this controlled, self-imposed stress how to quiet that inner storm, how to find peace in the chaos, so that we can stay at peace when a raving lunatic boss is screaming insults at us, when our closest loved ones are being as hurtful as they can be and pushing all those buttons that only our loved ones know about. And so that fourth thing we can all do and must do is to ask ourselves, what are we doing to generate joy? And what are we doing to generate misery in our lives? We are all either creating the habits for happiness or the habits for misery. When we are bored and impatient, do we go on social media or do we use that time to meditate? When we're stressed and we need to let off some steam, do we turn to substances or do we eat a good diet and exercise? Are we excessive in our desires or are we feeling gratitude? These are the practical steps we can take every day of our lives to make sure that we are creating those conditions for joy. If we are always watching the news, we are going to always feel a subtle level of stress. If we are watching nightly sunsets or getting outside and spending some time in nature, we are going to feel a spaciousness and calm. This doesn't mean we can never have fun and we can never get on social media or buy things we want and desire. But we may start to do them mindfully. We may start to become aware that they don't bring us the lasting happiness that we desire, and so they will no longer be the source of our futile search for peace and joy. We can appreciate those pleasures when we have them, and we'll be happy and peaceful when they're gone. We'll be free from the expectations of life to always go perfectly. we'll be free from blame and blaming others. And just being will be enough. Thank you so much for listening. Much love. And if you want to know more about dealing with negative emotions and feelings, which is such a huge topic, you can check out my recent book, Aloneness to Oneness, 22 Life Lessons to Change the Way You See the World. As a Buddhist monk once told me, it takes two things to deal with negative emotions, like the two wings of a bird that it takes to fly. And one wing is wisdom, and the other wing is our experience and our practice. And I go into great detail about both from my 9-year journey around the world, learning everything I could from shamans in South America, gurus in India, and Buddhist monks and lamas across Asia. This book is a compilation of all of these things that I learned. It is truly the intro, intermediary, and expert level spiritual masterclass. I hope you enjoy it.